We are on the cusp of a major social change. Do you feel it? Even if you don't, make no mistake, change is coming, and it is going to be unforgettable. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Hart, and here on Prime Spark, where we work with and on behalf of women over 55, I want to help you find that spark that will ignite your way forward, reflect your gifts to the world, and illuminate your path through this next stage of life. Through these podcast conversations, I hope to inspire you to see how you can make a significant contribution to some of the gnarly problems that are facing us right now. Join me, and together let's discover our Prime Spark. Hi, and welcome to Prime Spark. I'm Sarah Hart, and I'm so happy you're here with us. Prime Spark is designed for women over 55, or close, with a goal to help us all live our happiest, most fulfilling and productive lives, now and in the future. The mission of Prime Spark is to change the way our society sees and treats older women. That's a big mission, which only means we all need to be involved and we need to get going now. And today I have the great pleasure of speaking with Wendy Green, a woman whose work I greatly admire. Wendy Green, host of the inspiring live show and podcast, Hey Boomer, is serving an important inspirational role for people 55 to 75 who are looking for ways to live meaningful, fulfilling lives. Her goal is to help people see that they are never too old to set another goal or dream, a new dream. Graduating from University of North Carolina at Asheville with a degree in computer science, Wendy entered the computer field as a programmer and moved into customer support at Digital Equipment Corporation. It was at Digital that she built and grew the U.S. Expertise Center. After moving to Maryland, she earned a certificate from Georgetown University in change management. In 2005, she started a kids' art business, an after-school enrichment program, and was recognized as the Franchisee of the Year in 2009. In 2013, she trained for and was certified as a life coach. Wendy served as president of the Reedy River Rotary Club in Greenville, South Carolina for 2 years. Along with all these diverse business successes, Wendy has raised 2 successful children and is a grandparent to 4 outstanding and lovable grandchildren. Besides her podcast, Wendy offers a 6-week What's Next group coaching program to help people find their vision for the next chapter of life. Welcome, Wendy. I'm so happy you're here today.
Thank you, Sarah. What a nice introduction.
Well, that's you, lady. That's what you've done. So, Wendy, just in getting started, let me ask you, do you experience getting older? And if you do, what is that experience? And if you don't, why do you think it is that you don't?
I love that question, Sarah. And yes, I do experience getting older. I think the first experience of it was a little bit of a surprise when I couldn't do some of the things that I totally thought I could in my own mind. And over the years, I have realized, getting down on the floor to play with those grandchildren that you mentioned, it's a little bit more difficult to stay there and then to get back up. Some of the hiking that I love doing is not as easy, and I have cut back on some of that. So I do experience the getting older and realize that part of getting older means we don't stop, we just adapt.
That is very well said. I agree with that completely. I think too, one of my least favorite terms is anti-aging. Because to me, I heard somebody say once, and I just sort of adopted this. It's like anti-breathing.
It's like anti-breathing. Yeah.
We're all
aging.
The the alternative must be that you're pro diet because
Right.
that is the only alternative. And so I love what you said about adapting. We just adapt and we keep doing as many of the things that we want to do as possible, perhaps in a different way, but we, to the extent we can, we don't stop.
Right. Right. I totally believe that, Sarah. And you've been a role model for that with some of the things that you've done.
Well, I hope so. And I hope that I am gracefully learning to adapt. And we'll see. It's not easy. I mean, it's not easy to let go
No,
of stuff that you really have always done and want to do. But we'll
that's
see.
right. It's not easy, but doing it gracefully, I like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. So you have had a wonderful and varied career and the different kinds of things you've done. So I want to talk about some of them, but one of the things I want to ask you first is about kids' art. I just love that. Tell us about that and how you got into it and how it went for you.
That was so much fun. I actually got into that. I was looking for a business and I was investigating several of them. And my father was not quite in hospice yet, but had always been a businessman. And so he said, let me help. And so he started calling some people and asking the franchise owners about things. And we came to the decision that kids art was a great thing. And it's a teaching children to draw by breaking things down into very small pieces, like they tell you, you can't eat an elephant in one bite, right? You have to break it down into small pieces. And then we introduced them to materials. These were elementary school children, to materials that they would never have seen until high school. And we taught them how to use the Prismacolor markers and the chalk pastels and the watercolors. And parents would come in after the class and they would say, well, you drew this, right? They just colored it in. Like, no, they drew this. We showed them how, and they did it. So it was a wonderful program. I totally loved it. Like I said, I won the Franchisee of the Year award with that, and that was a big deal too, because that I did get after my dad passed. And just a sweet aside, Sarah, as I was driving to the facility for the award show, and I didn't know I had won yet, there was a rainbow over the facility, and I just was like, oh, Dad's here.
Oh,
So
I love that, Wendy.
I know it was really special. Yeah.
What did you learn from that, from the kids' art? I mean, the kids obviously learned a lot. What did you learn?
I learned that I can draw. I didn't know that I could be such an artist also. I learned how to use a lot of the materials that I hadn't used before. But I also learned, and this was a lesson we taught the children, that there are no mistakes in art. Because if you make what you think is a mistake, you can always turn it into something else. And what a wonderful life lesson, right? Because if you make a mistake or what you think of as a mistake in life, it's not the end of the world. You can pivot, you can change it, you can, adapt and modify and reinvent and all those wonderful things that we've learned to do. A mistake is not the end. You don't have to throw out the drawing. You don't have to throw out that part of your life. So that was a great lesson.
That is a great lesson. That reminds me, and I can't think of the word for it right now. What do you call it when you improv? And it's sort of like saying yes and rather
Yes,
than never saying no. Yes and. So that's sort of that would be a wonderful program for adults.
It would be, and I thought about that at one point to do it. They're doing some of it now, like with the wine and painting shops that you find around, similar to that. But I actually taught the course a few times at the senior living facility near here, and they loved it. Yeah.
I think that would be one because I have in my mind that I cannot draw. That I still draw the way I drew in first and second grade. You have a house, you have a bush, you have you have windows, you have stick figures. And so in my mind, I can't draw. And I would love to do something that teaches me how to draw. So
I could teach you, Sarah, because everybody can draw. We have been programmed by our children, our elementary school experiences, where they said, trees have to be green and the sky is blue and the grass is brown. And if you did anything different, you were wrong. And we would tell the children that you're never wrong. You see it the way you see it. It's very different for kids because they're taught in school to do everything right so that you pass the test. And this is such a freeing feeling to say you're never wrong. You don't have mistakes. You just create what you see the way you see it. So I could definitely teach you to draw, Sarah.
Oh, I would love it. So you may not be at a point in your life when you want to do it, Wendy, but if anybody's listening, I think you could take this concept and do it for adults, because I think there are a lot of us who would love to be able to draw, who for years have just heard the messages we heard in first, second, third grade. You can't draw.
That's right.
You're doing it wrong. Oh, wonderful. So another thing that you have, and you have now, and I'm really interested in your what's next group coaching. So what are some of the main issues you hear from people in your groups?
Yeah, so so many of us, when we think about retirement, this is a message that we heard from our parents, and you retired and you relaxed. You just kind of sat around on the beach or at the, pool, or maybe you played golf, but you didn't really do anything else. And people are realizing now, if they retire at 60, 65, even 70, they probably have another 20, 30 years of life ahead of them. And doing nothing takes away your feeling of purpose, your feeling of resiliency, your feeling of having a meaningful life. And so I get a lot of people that are struggling with, I've never thought about my purpose. I had a job, it paid the bills, but a purpose? What does that mean? What am I supposed to do with all of this time left so that I feel meaningful? And they also feel like nobody wants to hear from them. They feel invisible, right? When we get older, a lot of people don't think that we are technologically savvy or that our mind can process things as quickly. And yeah, maybe we're not doing them as quickly, or maybe we don't have the same skills as a 17-year-old looking at their smartphone, but we have a lot of skills and wisdom, and we have a lot left to give. I love the idea of finding ways to use some of the things that you thought of as a child that you wanted to do. For instance, for me, I wanted to be a broadcast journalist, but there wasn't women broadcast journalists then, until Barbara Walters, but then I was already having children. So I now am getting to do broadcasting in a sense with the podcast. So I love that when people get to look back at their childhood dreams and say, what did you want to do that you had to put on the shelf because your parents said, well, you should study this and you need to follow the family legacy, or you should. Now it's time to say, no, what I want to do is who I am. And that's what I'm going to follow, is my passion and my purpose.
I love that. We lose that. We lose that really early. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of us lose that really, really early. We don't actually have time to develop some of those early things that we had thought about. I mean, they don't even have a chance to develop. So I love that you get people doing that again. One of the things that you said that I'm fascinated with is and I can't cite this research right now, but you may be able to, that we don't think as fast as we used to, but we think differently. And we are able to think in ways that 17-year-olds can't yet.
Right.
And so even though we can't do this as well, we can do this a lot better. And so, in addition to having organizational wisdom
Mhm.
and the ability, at least for some of us, to get along with people and build teams and so forth and so on, if you bring these two different skills that the 17-year-old has and that I have together, that's dynamite.
It is dynamite. And I'm starting to see some of that, Sarah, in some of the organizations. Co-generate is cogenerate.org. They're really working on bridging that gap between the generations. And I'm so excited about that work because I know, and I imagine you were this way too. When we were in college, we were so passionate about we were going to change the world, we were going to save the world. There was and so the passion of youth is so exciting to be around. And then when you combine it with some of the wisdom and the big picture thinking that we have developed as adults, having lived through many different iterations of life, right? When you combine those two powers together, the passion of youth and the big picture wisdom of older adults, I think it's unstoppable. We do have work to do to bridge that gap, to understand the different communication styles of the different generations. But I'm so excited to see that work moving forward now.
Oh, I love that. I have I'm sure you have the work that Sky Bergman is doing with intergenerational communication, and I'm really fascinated with that because it seems to me that one of the ways that we're going to deal with ageism is through intergenerational communication. I think it was Sky who told me, but somebody told me that in their work, they found many, many, many young people who have no contact with older adults other than their parents and their parents' friends who, because the families are so disparate now that they may not know their grandparents. They may see them once a year, if they still have grandparents. And so I think, for all the reasons that you said, and also to help work with ageism, I mean, we have to deal with that very early because that gets inculcated into people very young. It is so prevalent in our society that they learn it very young.
It does. And have you heard of the organization Generations Over Dinner?
Yes, but yes, I have heard of it, but I don't know anything about it. Say about it.
Yeah, so that was an interesting organization also, where they give you a guide for a facilitated conversation to have over dinner. And how many generations can you get together? So I started thinking about that. Well, there's me. There's my kids. They're Gen X. Their kids, that's Gen Z. I'm missing the millennials. Who do I know that's a millennial? Right? I'm missing we call them the silent generation. So, we also don't have a lot of conversations with the other generations. We all tend to segregate around people that are like us. And this work, as you said, Sarah, is so important to combat ageism, to combat on both sides, right? So that the older people don't think the younger people are bad or lazy or addicted to their phones or whatever we think. And the younger people don't think that we are ruining the planet or, we don't understand them. So I think it works both ways.
I think so too. And I like the one of the things I'm wanting to start doing, and I haven't started doing it yet, but I want to, is to do co-mentoring circles. So that, and I want to name it that, so people understand this goes both directions. It's not older people mentoring younger people. It's co-mentoring. You should do that with some of your circles. You should have.
Yeah, the banter that I started, I'd like it to be multi-generational. And I mean, there's so much to learn from each other. There really is. I mean, I talked to my oldest granddaughter who's 18, and I said, so what does this mean? What is this acronym? And how do you do? And like, when I text, am I supposed to put a question mark at the end? Because I never see any kind of, uppercase, lowercase question, anything in your texts. No, Grandma, we don't do that anymore. Okay.
I love that. I just love it. So, Wendy, you do, as you said, you're doing, in a way, you're doing journalism, broadcast journalism now, telecast journalism now.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you get into doing live TV? Because a lot of people don't do live TV. And how did you get into it? And what do you particularly like about doing it?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. So, so the show, Hey Boomer, is a live show before it goes to podcast. And what happened, Sarah, is when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, I was laid off. I'm always in training and development. That's always been my career. And I said to myself, you know what? There's going to be a lot of people in our generation that are going to be hit hard by this. And we need, as a generation, we need to still feel relevant. We need to feel like we still matter. How am I going to help that happen? And all I knew to do at that point was a Facebook Live. And so I called a few friends and said, will you be my guest? I'm going to do a Facebook Live. And I think the first live, I had like 5 people listening, and one of them was my mother. Since then, we're now into the 3rd year, Sarah. I can't even believe it. I know, it's 3rd year. And so I'm now live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And then we take the audio and put it out to all the podcasts. And what do I love about it? I love that I have met people from all over the world. I've met people like you that you're on the West Coast, I'm on the East Coast. We never would have met had it not been for the podcast that we both do. I have met authors. I have met entertainers. I have met people that have traveled across the country on a bicycle, just fascinating stories that I'm so excited about every time. I can't believe I get to share this story with an audience. Best thing in the world. I'm so grateful that I have been able to bring this.
That would happen though, Wendy, with a recorded podcast. What about live TV? Do you like? I mean, why do you choose to do that?
Okay, so that's how we started, right? With the Facebook Live. That's how we started. And then what I'm finding now is because it's live, people can communicate with us. And so I'll get questions asked, or I'll get somebody to, in the comments to reiterate something that we've said, that the guest said, to really make that point. So it feels much more engaged because I'm talking to my audience as well as my guests, and they're interacting with us. And that is so much fun. And in fact, I asked my audience at one time, do you think it's hard for people sometimes to get on the show every day at 1:00 on Mondays on, 1:00 Eastern time? And they said, oh, no, don't stop doing it live. We want you to do it live. We love to be able to talk to you and see you. And so I guess I'm still doing it live.
Well, I think there actually aren't that many people doing it. And so it's sort of unique. And so I think that's wonderful that you're doing that. And people, have gotten used to it now and don't want to change it.
They don't want me to change it. And some people, don't want to do live because it's scary. What if you mess up, or what if the guest just doesn't have anything to say but one-word answers? So, but it's great. It's so much fun.
One of the things from doing the podcast I do, and this happens to me almost every time I do a podcast. I interview primarily women, not completely. I've had a handful of men. But when I get off the podcast, so many times I think, oh, I really like her. I really want to get to know her. I mean, there are such fantastic, I will say women, because that's who I work with, women out there who are older women, over 55, many times much older than that, who are interesting and doing fun things and are so engaged. And I really would love to be able to sit down and have a cup of coffee with them. So I think it's very exciting.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great to get all of us women working in this space to, go off together somewhere and just spend a few days? And
wouldn't that be fun?
that would be fabulous.
Oh, that would be so much fun.
We would have a ball.
Okay, so that is a potential thing in the future. You ask people to get back in touch with their older, now with their new dreams. So what are one or two of yours?
My new dreams? Well, one of my big dreams, we'll see if I achieve this, is to visit all of the national parks.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so I've been slowly building that. Last summer I went to Glacier, the summer before to Yosemite. So that's definitely a big dream, to visit all of the national parks, to reach as many people as possible with this message, Sarah, that we are never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream, to just recognize how important we are, to recognize our relevance, to make a difference in the world. We as older adults, particularly women, I think we have a lot to give, and I really want to reach as many people to encourage them to believe in themselves that they can do that.
Okay, Wendy, so this is what we need to do. We need to have a meeting of all of the women who are doing this work at one of the national parks that you haven't visited yet. So you have one you can mark off the list.
There you go, Sarah. I like the way you think.
So you find a park and then we'll build a group. So I have seen you put out on several occasions for people to think of their word for 2023. So Wendy, what is your word for 2023?
My word is connect. And in my graphic, I always make a graphic of my word. In my graphic, I'm connecting with friends and family. I'm connecting with nature. I'm connecting with other podcasters and coaches so that I can learn from them. I'm trying to do more networking. What I realized, Sarah, was that I got so comfortable being by myself during the pandemic. I'm already somewhat of an introvert. And I realized as we get older, being isolated is not good for our health, physically or mentally. And I needed to really work on building my support system and building my network. And so I chose the word connect to do that. And part of that is connecting with you.
I think that happened to a lot of us during the pandemic, Wendy. I mean, I hate classifying people, but there really are differences between people who are sort of introverted and people who are sort of extroverted. There really are some significant differences there. And I definitely am more introverted. And so that whole shelter in place thing, that was fine for me.
I know, right?
I didn't mind that at all. I'm glad we had Zoom. It would have been very different without Zoom. And it's not easy now to convince myself to start going out to networking events. That's not an easy thing to convince myself to do.
It was never easy, right? To go to a networking event.
It's one of my least favorite things to do. And for those two, three, or whatever years, I had a good excuse not to do it.
I know. So now I'm trying to do them easy, like let's go for coffee. A one-on-one. I can do that. So do you have a word for the year, Sarah?
Brave.
Brave. I love that. How are you doing brave?
I really want to spread the word, sort of just what you said, Wendy. I really want to spread the word about Prime Spark. I really want to help older women step out with all of their wisdom and skills and make a difference in the world in whatever large or small way they want. But the world needs older women's wisdom and experience so desperately right now. And I want to be braver and more willing to step out and make that happen. So we'll see.
I know. Well, let's support each other in those words.
Yes. That's great. Of all the things you've done, Wendy, and you've done so many different and wonderful things, what are the 2 things you're proudest of?
Well, I think my 2 adult children, they were 2 and 4 when their dad and I split up. And you heard all of the negative talk about children of divorce. They have done remarkably well. So I'm very proud of them. And I think also going back and getting my degree, I did not have a degree when I got divorced. And so, I was a single mom in the computer lab, crying to my advisors because I said, I can't be in the lab all night. I have babies in the bed, and I still graduated with honors. So I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of the U.S. Expertise Center I built. I'm proud of Hey Boomer. I mean, I guess there's a lot of things I'm proud of. You only asked for 2. Sorry.
That's fine. No, that's fine. You have a lot of things to be proud of. No, what's really interesting is I don't always ask my guests that question, but when I do, a very large percentage of the time, no matter what amazing things they've done in the world, the amazing thing that they're most proud of are their successful adult children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And it's getting to be a bigger and bigger deal because I think that it's getting harder and harder for young people to grow up in this world. And so
I think so too. Yeah. But that was one of my goals, was to raise good, caring, responsible adults. That's what we're supposed to do as parents.
And you did it.
And I did it.
Yep.
And they did it. We did it together. We were kind of a team, the 3 of us. We grew up together.
Yeah. Wendy, this has been delightful. If somebody would like to get in touch with you and find out more about your work and your group coaching, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, the website is heyboomer.biz, B-I-Z, or they can email me at wendy@heyboomer.biz.
So that is HEYBOOMER, right? Just Hey
Right.
Boomer, like it sounds. Okay.
Heyboomer.biz, B-I-Z.
B-I-Z. Yeah. Not com, folks. Biz.
Right.
Biz.
Not biz.
So that's our time today. Thank you so much, everyone, for being with us. You can find our Prime Spark podcast on every popular outlet. Find out more about Prime Spark at www.primesparkwomen.com. Thank you so much to my guest, Wendy Green. It's been such fun talking to Wendy. And don't forget, you can find her at heyboomer.biz. Is that right, Wendy? Heyboomer.biz.
That's it, Sarah. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you for being with us. Spread tolerance and love. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to stay updated, you can head over to my website, primesparkwomen.com, and get my free Spark Guide, 7 questions to ignite your spark, to help you discover your own spark. See you in the next episode.